This episode of Jac is brought to you by Weaver Leather.
So the last time I was working with him, I didn't even have stirrups on the saddle that I was using because I had taken them off for another filly. And he was completely fine with the idea that the stirrups were added. Actually, the filly, who had been real reactive, she was completely fine with it too. Again, it was just kind of me playing around with the idea of how many steps can you break this down into to help increase their odds of learning it well. So now what I've done is I've set myself up for ground driving. You can see that the black line runs from the bit through what's going to end up being my outside stirrup and then up to my saddle horn. I'm going to start with something he knows, which is lunging him. So my blue line is going to end up being my lunge line, and my black line is going to end up being the outside rein. And I've driven him, I think this will be the third time. So I'll send him out to something that's kind of familiar, which is going to be at lunge circle. And then you'll also see that what I was just doing with flipping the stirrup is very similar to flipping that line up like that. And so now that black line is hanging down on the other side of him, and it's acting like a rein. So now I can actually steer him the way that I would to ride him. So the blue line, I can steer him in, and then the black line, I can steer him out. And then I'm going to just go ahead and stop him. So I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on the reins and stop him, just like I will when I ride him. And I'm actually going to walk up, and because I've done this a couple times and he's been real quiet with it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk up here. Normally, I would repeat exactly what I'd just done the opposite way, but I've already done that the last couple of days. So I'm just going to walk up here, and I'm going to run my blue line through the stirrup also, because this is going to be what keeps him from stepping on the lines. So basically now I'm ground driving him, which is I've got both of the lines through the stirrups. I'm staying out of his kicking range. The reins are pretty important here because the reins are actually going to keep him from putting his head down on the ground. And I don't want him to put his head all the way down to the ground because he could step over one of my lunge lines, the blue or the black, which are acting like reins. So the fact that he can't put his head all the way down is a good thing for me. Plus, when I get on and ride him, I'm not going to let him put his head all the way down either, because when they get their head down around their knees is when they buck really well, so I'm not going to let him do that. So he's learning that right now. I'm going to go ahead and trot with him some. Then you'll see me doing some turns. Sticky. Ooh. So what you can see there is that he's starting to understand what the reins are for. He's also pretty quiet, so you can see that he's being a little sticky about going forward. That's a rough thing when you're getting ready to start to get on him because you want to have a lot of forward motion, but it's also pretty natural for him because he's bred to be a lazier kind of a horse. We'll work that out, won't we? What I'm going to be working on between now and the next time we film is going to be getting him to improve on the bending that I've already shown you, but I'm also going to add one more change. I'm going to eventually be mounting up on him, so I need to be able to say bend means stand still, but then I also need to add sometimes I bend you just enough to be able to steer you, and if I add the gas pedal, which is eventually going to be my leg, but for now it's going to be this whip, that you are able to bend slightly and move forward. So I'm going to start introducing, this is the first time I've done this, I'm going to start introducing this idea that it is possible for him to bend and move. He doesn't have any idea what this tapping on his side means right now. So he's just standing there. And I'm just going to carry this rhythm until he takes a step. And that's going to be when he finds the release. So he's standing here contemplating what this all means. He's kind of looking at it. He staggered, but it was too much of a backward step for me. I lost the rhythm for just a second thinking about rewarding him. But I actually want him to actually take a step forward with any of his 4 feet. So right now he's showing that he's really quiet. And he's actually thinking. He's thinking, man, she's been sacking me out. And everything's been meaning stand still, be quiet, stand still. I really just want to do that. So he's actually not thinking about moving. Again, that's a backward step. There's forward. So I'm going to quit there. Then I'm going to release his head, let him get a reward, and then I'm going to do it again. Slightly bent with the gas pedal, you can still move, is what I'm saying to him. So he stepped back, then he stepped forward. I release. Going to let him step. Do it again. Pick up. Begin tapping. He tries it right away. So you see how he's starting to connect, that I can actually ask him to move. Because when I get on him, I need to be able to bend him and have him move, and this is how. And I'll still practice that bend means stand still, so bend him far around. No tapping, that means stand still. There he made the mistake of moving. I'm not tapping him, so I'm not going to reward him until he stands still. His reward is going to be release. But that was a mistake that he made because I'm introducing multiple ideas now. Bend him around. Didn't ask him, I didn't tap on him, so he's not supposed to move. Bend him around. I didn't tap on him, he moved. I'm going to wait till he stands still. This time I'm going to bend him just a little bit, and I'm going to start tapping. He needs to start to understand the difference between these two, because I should be able to steer him, and I should be able to then pull him around and have him stand still. So that is what you're going to learn for the next few days.
Tune in next time as the conversation between Stacy and Jack continues.